wish to extend a very warm and hearty welcome to you all for being here and joining me as the last hurdle to take before graduation. This is what I hope. I would like to ask you to put out cell phones or put them in silent stand. This presentation is my thesis in a nutshell. My thesis is an improvement plan for the golden hour as multidisciplinary working disaster. The word disaster originates from Latin. Dis means bad, and astrum, star, and roots from astrology. It implies that when the stars are in a bad position, a bad event will happen. The word disaster still means bad and unwanted things to happen, often with a great impact on humanity. Nowadays, it's this impact that makes an event a disaster. Just about every country in the world has its own definition, but roughly they are all the same. It is a sudden event with a great impact on human beings. For that reason, it is possible that 10 people die in a home for the elderly, and one boy dies at school, and this 10 people don't get in the newspaper, and there's one boy who dies in school who happens to be in the wrong place in the wrong time, gets the front page of every newspaper in the country. Worldwide, disasters are categorized, and every country has its own way to do so. The Netherlands has, for instance, 18 different disaster types. South Africa only 8. The golden hour is the first hour after a disaster has occurred. To improve the golden hour, one first has to know the ins and outs of the disaster and disaster management. Therefore, a major part of my thesis is about disaster management in the Netherlands and South Africa and disaster management in general. This is due to the fact that the golden hour is actually just a part of a disaster. The golden hour, when it's so important to act the best way possible, it's also the hour of a high degree of uncertainty. An hour of many questions and often no or not enough questions answered at disposal. But it's also the hour when lives can be saved by acting the right way as quickly as possible. Having the right people at the right spot and having enough hands to contribute to work. This causes great stress to the relief workers who sometimes do not have a clue where to start. Because there's chaos everywhere. They are needed everywhere and they have only one pair of hands. And it's always something short to go with the disaster. The lack of clarity about each other's roles is also a major problem. Knowing what the others do or needs to do and what the qualities are, how you can be of use for them and how they can be of use for you could improve the golden hour. The reason for choosing to write an improvement plan is that despite the fact that there's a need for improvement of the management methodology of the first 60 minutes, no such plan exists. Very often the conclusion is that we, more or less, have to face the fact that there is not much to improve on the golden hour. Well, perhaps it's impossible to utilize the golden hour at every disaster with a perfect reaction and response by those involved as the first responder, but I most certainly disagree that improvement cannot be made. In just one chart, you see the fundamental problem of the golden hour, an immense tension between capacity and time. The research question and a sub-question resulted in a framework, a global map of the contents of this research. Based on this framework, the research for information started. There was not one subject thinkable, and a book about it is written. At least that's what I thought. But the fact is that I was unable to find even one single piece of literature solely devoted to the golden hour, and this made my research more difficult than initially thought. My thesis is a comparison between the Netherlands and South Africa. The reason for choosing South Africa to compare the Netherlands with is one carefully made. South Africa started from scratch on and wiped all things from the table, from legislation to operations. Therefore, South African authorities carried out a worldwide review of all appropriate techniques prior to establishing its own disaster management organization. For the quality of my research, I have conducted a survey in South Africa and in the Netherlands, and besides the survey, I have interviewed several people in both the Netherlands and in South Africa. When a disaster occurs, and so to speak, the golden hour starts, the perception of threat is accomplished by a high degree of uncertainty. This uncertainty pertains both to the nature and potential consequences of the threat. What is happening, and how will it happen? What is next? How bad will it be? More important, uncertainty clouds the search for solutions. What can we do? And what happens if we select this option? Or what if we don't? This is just about the case before taking the golden hour question. Speaking to the first responders at the disaster scene, it makes very clear that they all had experienced the same thing. It was chaos because many things happened at the same time, and there was so much to do with too few people. It was not always clear who to inform, what to do, and perhaps more important, what not to do. A disaster is generally an unpredictable event that can have great impact on both society and relief workers. Because of the above-mentioned factors, because of the above-mentioned facts and the fact is that disasters fortunately do not often occur. The golden hour is an hour of chaos, trying to get to know what exactly happened and what to do to prevent it from getting worse. Trying to get the right people on the right spot as fast as possible, and so on. Getting grip on the solution. According to the reporting of the Royal Commissioner, current disaster management does not come up to the standard of the Ministry of Internal and Kingdom Relations. Most regions can only handle a small disaster, but then again, most regions are on risk for severe disasters that even cross the border of the province. Though there is a proven necessity for reaching a higher level of disaster management to cope with more severe disasters, most regions will only reach this in years from now. During disasters, the set and practice organization structure is guideline. This structure is reproduced on the main lines in this chart that you see on this and the next slide. This slide shows the structure on national and provincial level and grades into the chart on the next slide. And this slide shows you the organization structure and disaster control on regional and municipal level. The South African government has made several policy changes in the past 10 years. The Green Paper provided an opportunity to reflect on current approaches to disaster management and risk reduction by all relevant authorities and provoke thinking around the future strategy or strategies that will be in keeping with international trends and more appropriate to current and future needs within the country as well as the South African region. The White Paper underscores the importance of preventing human, economic and property losses and avoiding environmental legislation. All these actions culminated in the development of the Disaster Management Act. It is believed that this act is one of its kind in the world, and South Africa has taken great strides in addressing disaster management in the country. The Disaster Management Act provides for integrated, coordinated and uniform approach to disaster management by all spheres of the government. This slide shows you the way South African government works. The Department of the Provincial and Local Government is the national section of the Disaster Management Center. The Commissioner of each department on all levels is held responsible in person to be sure that all information on the disaster that has occurred, that it will be sent to the DCLG, so that people at any other event. Exercise has multiple goals, such as to infiltrate the routine and to identify bottlenecks and inadequacies and establish plans and rectify when necessary. The 5 critical tasks are sense-making, decision-making, meaning-making, terminating, and learning. And participation by civilians. Civilians who are at the location scene of a disaster are extremely useful as extra manpower. They are available immediately, and they are often more than willing to cooperate. Most often, even without asking. Especially groups of civilians can be of great use in combating a disaster. Accurate registration of all activities of combating a disaster with respect to personnel, procedures, and equipment is the only way for an effective coverage and evaluation. Due to the fact that there is chaos during the golden hour, personnel from law enforcement, fire, medical, and other emergency organizations reported neither panic, flight, nor hysterical breakdown at disasters. Given the available information, the actions of the personnel were rational, desirable, and reflect a high level of dedication and altruism. The interviews that I held gave a general overview of how disaster management works in general in both the Netherlands and in South Africa. The survey conducted in the next results. Communication inadequacies were major difficulties encountered with the response. Just about all respondents were positive about their performance and that of their fellow workers. The negative things that were added as commentary that should be more practical. It makes them feel more comfortable, confident, and assured. My research shows that multidisciplinary working in the Netherlands is developing in a positive manner compared to the way it used to be until a decennium ago. But there's still a long way to go. The safety regions are not developing at the requested speed, and most of the regions are far from the standards and goals set by the government. Due to the fact that disasters are fortunately rare in the Netherlands, there's hardly any knowledge through experience. As a consequence, it's essential to gather the gained experience into a central place for issue to all concerned parties. Subsequent coordination, evaluation, and responsibility can only be optimized when all activities and disaster management and the development of both effort and process are accurately registered. To make the first responders as capable as possible, numerous multidisciplinary disaster exercises have to be held. Therefore, the guiding principle multidisciplinary exercise should be developed on short notice. Within a term of 1 year, there has to be an assignment that leads to the development of a guiding principle multidisciplinary working, multidisciplinary exercise. This disaster managers and responders should be trained to visualize the whole of the response, do process mapping, form purpose group, and engage in group problem solving, and be functionally cross-trained. Providing this database with all information of former almost disasters and calamities, and letting the people that work at the joint emergency room have access to all this information in order to channel this information to the people on the beat, makes this a powerful way to optimize the golden hour. Participation of civilians. Civilians can be the fastest, cheapest, and immediately available pair of hands on the scene. Instead of putting a lot of effort in keeping the crowd on a distance, it can be of great use to take advantage of their presence by letting them work for and with you. At the end of my presentation, and in contrary to what the examiner said, this slide was already in, so sorry, but no room for it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Suzanne. Gaat even over naar het Nederlands. Kop is eraf. Keurig op tijd. Ik ga je even op een wat andere plek positioneren, zodat je daar niet bij staan. Wil je misschien uitje? Koepen. Goed, gaan we het tweede gedeelte beginnen. Heb je je stukken bij de hand? Oké, ik zeg nog even een paar dingen ter informatie. Ik heb een heel vorm Jan, zodat gaan we de vraag aan stellen op datgene wat gepresenteerd is die dat gegeven hebt. Tijdens de beantwoording van die vragen kan het voorkomen dat je ons waarschijnlijk ongeïnteresseerd die bladeren of aantekeningen maken of misschien wel gaten, weet ik veel. Dat heeft niks te maken met dat het niet interessant is, dat wij niet interessant zijn, het heeft ook te maken met dat wij weer even denken van even opzoeken wat ze daar straks gezegd heeft staan ergens en dat kunnen we even bij hebben. Spreek je daar niks van aan, je doet gewoon je eigen ding en dat is allemaal goed. Ready? Okay, first question is, why exactly have you chosen for South Africa? Can you please explain again?
Yes. South Africa, a lot of countries were chosen for comparing elements. Of course, America was one of the most obvious. But then again, I didn't want to go for the most obvious. And I started my search for which country has disaster management well defined and has just about research everything on disaster management. And that led me to South Africa. Because South Africa, after apartheid was abolished, they started in disaster management with a clean slate. They said, well, okay, disaster management is never existed in South Africa. Everything away. A couple of researchers received funding and they had to search all over the world what is the best way to cope with disaster and which manners are suitable for South Africa, because not every disaster management is suitable for South Africa. Now, they started totally new, and in theory, I think they have at this moment the best disaster management in the world. But in theory, and that's what I found out when I went there for 9 weeks, and that it was all more beautiful presented to me on email and the several contacts that I had, because in fact, in operations it didn't work out the way they wanted to. They are working on that. But funding is a major problem. South Africa is quite a poor country and developing, and the government doesn't want to give more funding to develop disaster management on lower levels. So on the highest level, it's like excellent. They have computer programs. I stood there watching with my chin on my chest. Man, unbelievable. You should have that in the Netherlands. There's a perfect system of whenever a disaster occurs on the street, you can phone to this guy on the crisis center and you say, okay, there's a for instance, huge fire, and we have a factory that has some chemicals, and inform me. And this guy in the crisis center sits behind his computer and searches in the database and gives this guy on the beat every information that is from former accidents that can be compared to this accident. So he knows exactly who to call and where to get his information. They have, he can, like on his iPad, he can get pictures of houses in the neighborhood that actually has a hose on the back of his civilian's house. They make pictures of everything, and everything is in this database. So when he wants to put out a fire and he needs water for that, he knows every water point in the neighborhood, at civilian places, factories, you name it. They know every spot in South Africa. So that's the reason why I chose
the exact difference or differences between South Africa and the Netherlands, then you could compare these conclusions to each other.
You mean in disaster management in general?
Yes.
Okay. Disaster management in general in South Africa is something the government rules. The DPLG, Department of Provincial and Local Government, is on the head of the disaster management. And in the Netherlands, government makes the rules, legislation, but the actually operations are in hands of first place the fire brigade and second police and the court. So it's much more central in South Africa. It is an extreme top-down, and in the Netherlands you have legislation in the top, and the rest is like a football match between the fire brigade, police and the court.
Okay.
The Netherlands chose to change that because some years ago, in 1980, we had it as well, and we changed it to more decentralization.
My next question is about your research question, and that is formulated in how can the multidisciplinary aid be optimized during the first 60 minutes after a disaster calamity was occurred in the Netherlands. And that research question suggests that it isn't organized sufficient enough right now, according to the word be optimized.
Yeah, that's correct.
How do you know?
I experienced that working on the beat, being one of the persons who had to work the disaster plan development for a major chemical factory in the place where I live, Waalwijk. And there I found out that reading a lot of disasters in common in the Netherlands, the first 60 minutes could use some improvement. It's an understatement. But then again, I thought, okay, disaster management in general is something that was my warm interest, and so okay, the first 60 minutes can make all the difference. So why not trying to improve these first 60 minutes? Because when I started reading about the 60 minutes, I found out that there was nothing of this first 60 minutes.
There's nothing in literature.
Nothing in literature. But all the plans, like from the Hercules disaster and Velden and Enschede, all those plans, Enschede, I read through all the 18 parts of it, and just few pages on the golden hour. And they all seem to rest in, well, you have to accept chaos, and you have to accept that the first hour is trying to get your information and trying to actually know what went wrong, what happened. That's the first hour. So nobody even bothered of is there any way to improve this first hour. Everybody seemed to accept that, okay, it's chaos, you have to accept it. So
that was surprising for you, noticing that.
yes, yeah. And I thought, very ideal, when I started, I can write a plan and the thoughts go out. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do so.
Okay. Looking to your sub-questions, is it correct that there is a difference between the questions asked to the Netherlands and to South Africa?
Only minor. There shouldn't be huge differences. So which difference do you mean?
Okay. Well, what I meant is that in the sub-questions related to South Africa, there is a question on page 15. Which are the information products created by the involved persons?
Yeah.
And that question I haven't found by the sub-questions related to the Netherlands. Is that correct?
Yeah. The first time someone noticed it's a mistake. No
special reason for that.
No intention to do so, no.
Okay. but try and answering that question. Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, well, for both South Africa and the Netherlands, I have done research for that. So the fact that the question isn't there doesn't mean I didn't answer it.
No.
The answer is in the thesis.
Mm-hmm.
Information products that are created by involved persons. There are several. Involved persons make, for instance, the disaster plans at a higher level, but also operational and technical plans are made by the involved person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now fine. You worked it out later on in your paper.
Yeah. So it's a mistake that it's not written down. Sorry.
Heaven. Looking on page 16, related to the surface, what I found out was that there was not much cooperation.
No.
Can you please explain what happened?
Well, together with a colleague from CCB in Breda, we developed a survey. The questions I wanted answers for my thesis. I wanted to do that by email. I don't bother people then. Send it out. Selected several people. I didn't make a selection. It was made by Beekman, Joost Beekman, and he made a selection of people who are either have been involved in disasters or could be involved in the near future. And he sent this survey to like 50 persons. And after 2 weeks, I didn't receive one. Okay, so I phoned Mr. Beekman and said, okay, I didn't receive any, no one at all. And he said, okay, that's a problem. I'm going to write again an email. So I didn't actually put effort in it myself. He wrote them again an email and asked them to please fill in this survey because it's of a high use for Suzanne. Still didn't receive any back. So after 2 months, I thought, okay, I'm not going to receive any. If I didn't receive any now, then it will not happen in the future. So I started to phone all these people and ask, will you please fill in this survey? And yeah, we are tired of filling in surveys, and yours is not the only one. And I receive sometimes 3 a day, and they have all kinds of excuses. Okay, what am I going to do? Because I just need this information. So I said to these people, I want to make an appointment with you. I phone you on a certain date, on a certain time, and I ask you this question. But I want to keep it as clean as possible. So I just ask you the question. Don't ask me to explain, just answer my question. But otherwise, they are in the advantage of the people in South Africa who did take some trouble and fill it in without my help. So I made an appointment. I phoned 25 of the people, and in the end, 9 people actually cooperated. So it was still not so much, but in the end, I had some results. And I just sat at home with this list and asked the people on the phone, okay, what's your answer to this question, and what's the answer to this question? And so I received eventually some cooperation.
But looking to the outcome of the survey, only left input, what are the consequences in terms of conclusions?
At the moment, I thought qualitative. I don't want to put it in my thesis, but then again, the answers were so well thought and so relevant, and so what I hear in general, asking people and talking to people. This is what you see here, a process of 1.5 years work. So I've spoken to so many people, and they represented, this 9 people just represented, by my opinion, the opinion of many others. So I thought, for that reason, I put it in my thesis, because it's representative. but I surely hope for more response.
Okay. But what happened in South Africa with the survey?
In South Africa, I did not have any access to email addresses or whatsoever. So Dr. Velden, who works at the South African Police Service and who was my coach and guide during my stay in South Africa, he circulated this survey, and he circulated to just about 30 people. And then again, only a few of them returned it, and he wrote me an email, and in the heading there were all those names, so I had them in the end after all. So I wrote all these people an email, so please fill in the survey, and I received from almost all these people, I received an answer back. I don't know how you get my email address, but I don't have anything to do with disaster management. I'm very willing to help you, but my answers don't don't make any sense. So that's why there are only a few. So I don't know how he made his selection, but it was not a very well-concerned selection he made. And that's the problem when you are depending on someone else's capability to help you.
Hmm.
And, you don't have access to what he has on information. So I guess perhaps he used his private email list. I received some very nice emails.
Can I go back with you to your presentation?
Yes.
When you started your presentation, you told that you make a compare with disasters in the Netherlands and in South Africa. There were 18 kind of disasters in the Netherlands and 8 in South Africa. Is there any kind of disasters which are the same?
Yeah. Yeah. Those 8 of South Africa, only one is a disaster that doesn't appear in the Netherlands, it's a volcanic disaster. All the others can appear in the Netherlands. It's like floods and seismic disasters and drought. We don't have them severe in South Africa, but we have them as well, for instance, at this moment. And but the Netherlands has so many disaster management because disaster sites, because they just want to define everything solely. So we have, for instance, a disaster site, Rowdism. In South Africa, they think, well, it happens every day. It's not a disaster.
Okay.
And when it happens here, for instance, at a soccer game, it can actually be a disaster. Look at the Heifel drama. It can be a disaster, but in South Africa, they say human-made events, even if they have serious consequences, are not a disaster. And in the Netherlands we say everything that has great impact on humanity, and for instance, when it is on the front page, that's almost a statement. When it's on the front page of the newspaper and the government is going to bend over it, then it's a disaster. And it doesn't depend on how many victims there are, it's just about what the impact is on humanity. That's why we have in the Netherlands we have 18, and in South Africa we have only 8. Collapsing large buildings is a disaster in the Netherlands. Can be a disaster in the Netherlands. South Africa, they say, okay, when it happens, it's like a plane flying in, like in America, or it's something that someone put some explosives in the building, but that's not a disaster. So we differ a little bit from what is a disaster with South Africa.
Okay.
Going back to the safety region in Holland, page 24. There's something strange going on with safety regions. Is that correct?
Yeah, they do not develop in the way they should be. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Why has this happened? And who was responsible for it?
I guess for all that I've read about it until now, The main problem is that the government had a regulation of how this 25 safety regions should be developed, and made it very clear how on main lines. But then again, all municipalities and all districts had their own manner to fill it in, and they are improper guided with that. And after a few years, someone comes and looks over all these regions and sees, okay, it's not going to work the way it's planned. For me, it's like having a classroom full of youngsters and write down on the school board what they have to do, and then leave the classroom and come back after 2 hours, expecting them to have done what you asked them. It will not happen. That's just about what happened here. The government said, okay, this is what you're going to do, and this is the end result that we expect of you, and sort it out yourself, more or less. Not so black and white as I say it now, but I
But
think...
in your opinion, do you think the Dutch government takes this argument seriously?
From now, I think it grows, but not enough.
Why not?
Several underlying problems. Money, for instance, who is going to pay for it? It's always a major problem in the Netherlands. And not only in the Netherlands. In South Africa was the same problem. Who's going? You are asking something of me, and who is going to pay for it? I'm going to develop something, and it costs me a lot of money that I can use, for instance, to, like they say, so people in the Netherlands, put more blue on the street. And now I have to develop something that we don't even know if it's actually going to work the way you think it's going to work.
But how is it possible? Because when they have disaster practices,
Yeah.
they always say everything goes well, no problem.
No, they don't say everything goes well. Yeah, the government
Well,
says
some little things are communication.
Yeah. Perhaps always communication.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in the real, when there is a real disaster,
Yeah.
then there's a problem.
Yeah, especially at major disasters. Small disasters, just about every safety region can cope with small disasters. For the guiding principle, Leidraadmaatregel. The guiding principle disaster. It says you have 5 different scales of disaster. And scale 1 disaster is like a big truck on the highway. It has chemicals in it, not so hazardous, but little hazardous chemicals. That is a category 1 disaster. But like Enschede, that is a scale 5 disaster, and you see immediately they are not able to cope with that the way they should be. And all pointing the fingers at the other party. It's not fault of the police, it's fault of the fire department. The fire department, no, the core was the main problem. The board said, no, it was the municipality. The municipality said, no, I think the government is the main problem. Yeah.
So is there a kind of pattern? Wrong?
Yes.
What is the pattern you see?
The pattern in how they cope with disasters in general in the Netherlands. I think they all think we can manage it. And how great is the chance to actually have some kind of major disaster like Enschede or the Hercules-ramp or Velden. Okay, but we have to prepare for this kind of disaster. It costs X money. Not to prepare, we save this money and we can have more blue on the street and more firemen educated, etc. So you see that up till a certain degree of disaster, they can cope with that, but when it gets major problems, they don't know how to handle it because they are not sufficiently trained for that. That's the main problem. Insufficient training.
What's your opinion about that way of thinking and handling?
Yeah. I don't know what the English word for that is, but that's the way it goes. And then, like last week, I don't know if you heard it on the radio, disaster plans are too difficult. People on the street can't work with it. And then I think, well, then you actually don't know what you're talking about, because the disaster plan is not made to be on the street. They are most often like this size. So you see a police officer with 100 till 120 pages. Okay, let's see what we have to do. Yeah. Yeah.
You know a lot.
Yeah. That's the problem. They all think they know. And the cooperation between the different disciplines, that's also a very major problem. Communication is one thing that's always a problem. Everything that goes wrong, if it is in police, fire brigade, or at any office, if it goes wrong, it's always communication. That's the most easy thing to say. But cooperation between the different 8 disciplines, knowing what the other does or not does, what they expect from you and what you can expect from them, and that kind of thing, that are the major problems.
And what about information management? You just told us before, communication is always a major problem, but what about information management?
It's not optimum, especially not for disaster management. That needs improvement as well, and not only within each specific organization, but also between those different organizations. That's why I recommended a guiding principle multidisciplinary exercise to improve that as well.
And who has to take the initiative to it?
A guiding principle multidisciplinary exercising already exists, and the government took the initiative for that, and the fire brigade had to develop that. They received some money from the government and developed guiding principle multidisciplinary work exercise, and that worked well. That works good. The fire brigade is one of the organizations that's known for very good practicing. That's what they just about do all day. Besides putting out fire, they exercise. This multidisciplinary exercise guideline should be developed, and that's something they said just about after developing this guiding principle multidisciplinary work. But that's 7 years ago, and still no one has taken any initiative to actually develop it. So I think from the government on, there has to be some kind of funding, and some bureau has to develop it. Perhaps the same one that developed the multidisciplinary guidelines. Now you see that they exercise, there are multidisciplinary exercises, but sometimes the police organize them, sometimes the fire brigade organizes them, and the municipalities, if they cooperate, they just cooperate. They hardly ever organize some kind of exercise. So most of the time, it's either the police or the fire brigade.
Okay, you just told us before that the golden hour in South Africa is in theory on a higher level than in the Netherlands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Explain, why in theory? What about practice? In practice?
Well, they have developed from the year 2000 on. They have developed disaster management control plans, etc. And they have found Norway, South Norway, to develop a computer program and make photos of every spot in South Africa. South Africa is much, much larger than the Netherlands. They make a photograph of high quality of each spot in South Africa. So what they have now is a crisis center. You can imagine it's like a room of this size. And Pretoria has one, and Johannesburg has one, and Cape Town has one. And it's filled with huge LCD screens and a number of computers that have all data of the whole of South Africa. Nothing is thinkable that's not inside those computers. And data analysts put in fresh data every day. And they know exactly where our pipelines, if it's known where our pipelines, because there's a lot of information, illegal works that are not known, so they are not in the computer, but then just about every kind of information is in this database. And they have this system, whenever an event occurs, you can phone this crisis center, and all those people who have tickets, sorry, don't know the word, or on standby duty, come to this crisis center and try to search out all kinds of information for that type of disaster. So in theory, whenever a disaster occurs, the people on the most of the time it's like in the Netherlands, it's the police officer who is the first on the beach, who has only to dial one number. He dials the number of the crisis center, and from there on, everything starts to work. This crisis center calls of all these people who are on duty, information is collected, there are large screens, all kinds of schemes are filled out, and so in theory, this guy on the street just stands there and makes a cordon and makes sure that the first 5 to 10 minutes nobody comes in the crime scene. And then he must receive on his handheld, on his iPad, what are you going to do? You have to phone this guy, or I have to phone this guy for you. And you have to do this, and wind is coming from that direction, and the temperature is this, and so you have to be on the north side of the building, and you have to, like every kind of information, this guy on the street just has to follow the instructions he receives from the crisis center. So that gives him a kind of secure feeling. But no one, absolutely no one has an iPad. So most of them don't even have a mobile phone. So they can receive everything, but the people on the street, if they are on duty, they don't have a phone. So they have to run to a house. Can I use your phone? Make a phone call, and then he puts on the hook, and then he goes out, and the guy on the other side doesn't know who called him, from which number, so he doesn't know where to put this information to, and that's the next problem. So in theory, they have an excellent program on the first hour, and it would be great to develop something like that in the Netherlands. And they do it for the whole of South Africa, instead of like here, 26 regions, who all have their own computer programs, who all have their own way of working. They know it's one central place where all the information is gathered together. So in Joburg and in Pretoria and in Cape Town, they all have the same information. So in Cape Town, they also have information on Pretoria. They have all the information. Only you search for the one closest to the event.
When they don't know it works.
In theory, it works. And staff has made such an excellent program. It was finger-licking when you walk through that, and great. And these data analysts who know all the ins and outs of these programs and show you things like, imagine some kind of disaster. Tell me, and I will search everything for you. And you say, okay, some pipeline in the main road of Pretoria breaks, and a huge hole like 200 feet by 200 feet appears. What do you do?
Did you investigate if the system from South Africa could possibly work in the Netherlands?
Yes, it could.
Because it's a totally different infrastructure,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah, it could, but I don't think it's ever going to work because all coffee shops are very attached to their kind of system, and they all think, most of them at least, that their system is the best. So an overall system, what I researched is that already some people tried to implement a system like that, but mostly because of each region who wants to have its own system. It's also a major problem with the computer programs in itself. One has BPS and the other has other systems, and they just don't want to go to one system. In South Africa, it's unthinkable.
So it's possibly in a few years we see the name of Suzanne on the front pages of the newspapers with a new disaster.
Oh, that would be great.
In your chapter, according to disaster management in general, you struck me most page 45 by putting on a serious statement. It's about the lack of motivation and willingness of officials to attend specific disaster management courses.
Okay.
My question is, how do you know exactly that this is a real problem? What research did you do finding out this and coming to this statement? A serious claim.
Yeah, it is. It is, but that's the way I researched it, and that's the outcome of several interviews that I attended. Most people are saying there must be more exercising, but then when it comes to the point there is an exercise, and I have worked several weeks at the Bureau VTB. They organize all kinds of exercises to develop a higher level of skill at the officials. And what you see is people are pointed, you're going, and then in the end, 2 days before the actual day, I'm so busy, sorry, I can't make it. And that's what happens just about every time. And it disturbs the people of VTB very much. And they can understand it because this is not the only course they have to attend. They have so many courses, and most officials say they make this afweging. What's my effort and what do I get in return? How is the chance of anything happening?
Mm-hmm. So it's a cultural problem as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
What attitude should be most suitable for this kind of problems?
I don't think it must be so voluntarily as it is now. I think when you agree to assign a course, to attend a course, then you go, point. Without some people in the neighborhood dying or whatever serious problems, you just go.
By the way, do you know that it's possible in Holland to follow a course called Master of Crisis and Disaster Management?
Master of Disaster. Because, yeah.
Do you visit their website?
No, sorry.
It's interesting for you.
Yeah? I've spoken to someone who has attended this course.
Okay. Next question. No? Okay, page 47. It was also in your presentation. You told us before that there's a great tension between capacity and time.
Yes.
In the drawing. But I don't understand your drawing. Please explain it again.
I will try to. In the golden hour, the total time to do so many things without having the right people on the right spot. That's the core of this tension field. So we have only 60 minutes after the 60 minutes the golden hour is over. And we have 60 minutes to make the difference between life and death, and to make the difference if an event is going to evolve into something more serious. For instance, and today, if they have taken other steps this first hour, the problem wouldn't be so big as it was in the end. So this first hour, it puts a lot of stress on the first responders, the first relief workers who are on the spot. And they have only 2 eyes and 2 hands and a lot of things to do. And depending on information that they don't receive or they get wrong information, a major problem is that sometimes the mayor of a city is depending on the information he receives from the media. And that's something that's undesirable, but it's all due to this time and capacity stress that exists.
But what should officials do according to this law?
Escalate to the next level as quick as possible. That's one thing.
Why is that?
Most of them think I can handle it. Like your colleague said, I know it all. It's no problem. I can handle it. But some things are too big and too severe to handle it yourself, and 2 know more than 1, and 10 know more than 2. So escalate as quick as possible. So because getting people to the spot takes time. You just cannot call an emergency team to be on the spot when they have to drive 50 kilometers and be there within 5 minutes. That's impossible. So whenever you think it's more serious or it could get more serious, escalate to the next level as quick as possible to get as much people on the spot as possible. But then you have to have people who can estimate it to its true value. Because what you don't want is that every accident on the corner of the street escalates to because it's fear or something. And then there comes a certain moment when no one is going to react anymore. And when someone receives a phone call, there's a disaster again, you think, well, I'm turning around at 4 o'clock in the morning and see you tomorrow. So there is this, I experience interviewing people that is the major problem. They don't want to escalate too quickly to the next level because they are afraid not to be taken serious the next time. And on the other hand, when they do it too late, and what is too late, when they take too much time to escalate to the next level, it takes some time to actually be on this next level.
Okay. But on what specific moment you should escalate to foreign capacity?
When it's a fear situation, when it's outside your district, and when you inschatten, we cannot handle it ourselves. Foreign capacity in this scheme doesn't mean, like for instance, Germany or Belgium, not for definition a foreign country, but also a next province or another organization who knows more about it. So whenever you think we don't have the quality and don't have the experience within our region, then escalate as quick as possible to the next level where you can get this information. Expertise. Yes. That's what happens. Thank you.
Probably you can explain to the audience what RIC 4 is.
Okay. Okay, in few words. Coordinated system, a course, I would like to have maybe coordinated regional incident suppression procedure. Each region has its own way to fill in this, what we call SRIP, coördineren regionale incidentmanagement procedure. There are 4 levels. The first level is a very plain action that can be dealt with within this own municipality. So, for instance, if something happens here in Apeldoorn, and the fire department and the police and the court of Apeldoorn can handle this problem, then it's a step 0 or step 1 situation. But if it's like Enschede and it's outside the province and they have to get some help from far away, perhaps even from the whole of the Netherlands, but at least outside of the province, then it's step 4, and then you have some steps in between. That's what the coordinated regional incident suppression procedure is about.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can go to page 61. Paragraph 7.3, having about conclusions from interviews. What are the main conclusions from your interviews? Because in this paragraph I haven't found any conclusions. That's correct?
Yeah, that's because I found it very hard to describe the conclusions I took from the interviews, because I have woven them throughout the whole of the speech. And I thought, okay, there are so many conclusions I took from this interview that either it's like 4 pages long, or I write that it's in the thesis itself. And that's what I've done. I refer to it in the thesis, like this is from an interview, this is from an interview. The main conclusion is in South Africa that there's a shortage of money and operations do not connect to the way technical and strategical level work. In the Netherlands, the main problem that came out of the interviews is there's not enough exercise, which makes the people feel uncomfortable and not so sure about themselves. And sometimes they refer to themselves, because they say, well, I don't attend the courses. And sometimes they say, well, there's a possibility to attend the courses, but I never had time. And my boss says, well, you have to do this, but on the other hand, there has to be courses to be attended as well. So the main conclusion from the interviews is what I wrote down in the results as well. So that's why I chose to put only a small paragraph in that on page 61.
My last question is about your recommendation. Recommendation 1, you wrote down strictly being the fire brigade is the only organization in the Netherlands that has a practice culture. On page 52, you wrote down the inspection of public order and safety shows a lack of coordination, especially the fire brigade and KHW, suffer a personnel and material shortfall.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be as an angle of the book, but it's true. On the one hand, the fire brigade has a shortfall on personnel and material. On the other hand, the police work on the street all the time. When they don't practice or exercise, they are on the beat doing their job. But the fireman, then there is no fire. And hopefully, if he doesn't have to do that all day without fire, then he must exercise. That's just what they do. So it doesn't seem, there seems to be something written down wrong here, but absolutely right, because they have the shortfall on people and material, but then again, with those few or too little people and too little material, they exercise. And the police also has a shortage on people, not as severe as fire brigade or the court, but they don't practice. On the other hand, they do practice all day, because what you do as a disaster, as a police officer, is mainly just about what you do all day. If it's a small accident, what you do is basically the same as what you do at anti-day.
Nou, u heeft Suzanne nog geen uur kunnen we vragen. Zeker wel. Ik zal wellicht een vraag opgeroepen hebben. Mijn vraag aan u is, maar ook in Nederland hoor, heeft u een vraag aan Suzanne?
Ja.
Nou, niet. Ik moet eerlijk zeggen, mijn Engels is zo slecht. Ik weet nog niet waar het over gaat. Maar ik vind het wel fijn om hier te zijn.